I'm thrilled to be here today with Marcus Buckingham, human performance researcher, New York Times best-selling author, and founder of the Strength Revolution. Marcus has spent his life researching what makes us tick and is going to tell us how to use those findings to get the best out of ourselves and leverage our strengths. Thank you for being with us, Marcus.
My pleasure.
So I have what is the advanced copy of your new book, Love and Work, and it's coming out April 5th. Yes?
April 5th.
And in it, its full title is Love and Work, How to Find What You Love What You Do, and Do It for the Rest of Your Life. So yes, please sign me up. I'm going to read it. But what I found fascinating, in the book you talk about work-life balance.
Yes.
And what is wrong with striving for work-life balance? Why do the happiest and most successful women not strive for work-life balance?
Balance is a funny thing. Balance is something that we hold up as an aspiration for particularly women who are supposedly able or should be able to balance all different aspects and domains of their life. And it comes from the idea that, that things in nature that are healthy are balanced, that you keep everything in balance. But as a metaphor, it's a really bizarrely unhelpful thing because, first of all, finding that particular moment when everything is balanced is incredibly difficult. That one tiny moment when you've got your parents taken care of, or your work is going really well, or your bank account's okay, or your friends are, like, to have everything perfectly balanced is, first of all, a moment that is almost impossible to find. And if you did find it, what would be going through your head at that moment would be, nobody move, because I got it. It's like, it's 3:52 on a Thursday afternoon, and it's official, and I'm balanced, and then just don't anybody do anything. Balance is stasis, stationary. When you look at nature, actually, what you see is that the healthy things in nature are moving. In fact, everything in nature is moving. When we think about what is life, life is the healthy motion through environments and then gaining the nutrition or the nutrients you need from that environment to keep moving. That's a really good metaphor for life. How do you move through life, whether it's work or whether it's community, or whether it's family or whether it's friends? How do you move through all the domains of your life and then draw from those domains the nutrients that you need to flourish and thrive? You don't have 5 cups that you're trying to balance. You have 1 cup. It's called life. Work is part of life. Work-life balance is absurd because work is part of life. Your relationship is part of life. Your kids are part of life. Your mom and dad are part of... They're all part of one big cup that is either filled with nutrients, love. A lot of these domains of our life are sources of love for us. And if it's filled, we're magnificent. We can contribute more and collaborate better. We're more generous. Measurably, by the way, we perform cognitive tasks better. We remember details better. Other people rate us as more attractive when our love cup, if you like, is filled. And when we're empty, we're brittle. We're like a husk. And so the metaphor for women moving through life is motion through life and drawing from different domains of life the love, the nutrients, the energy that you need to keep moving. No one is suggesting that's easy, but that is a far healthier metaphor to think about what you should be striving for.
So if we aren't striving for balance, and you talk about filling the cup, what is it that we're striving for? How do we fill that cup?
So from the get-go, we are told, really from a very young age, that our loves aren't real. I mean, at 5, when you're very young, you're interested in what you love and what you lean into, and your parents are sort of interested in it. Then you go to school and you have, no knock on teachers, but you have love kind of deliberately drained from your life. And so what's important from that point on isn't what's inside you. It's not that which you love. It's what you need to retain in terms of facts or skills, and then we test you on it and standardized testing and so on. And so you get to be a grown-up, and you've kind of lost touch with that which you love. As it happens, every one of us has this unbelievably massive and filigreed network of synaptic connections in our brain, which means that we love some things and loathe others. And it's got nothing to do with even our brother and our sister. We're different even than the people that we grew up in the same house with. But it means that some things, some activities or moments or situations lift us up, and we're in our zone and we're at our best, and other things drag us down. And it's not the same things for each person in the same family. It's not the same things for mothers. All mothers get the same kick out of the same thing. No, they don't.
Right.
You just go interview 50,000 mothers and you ask them, what's the highlight of the day for them? And just that one question, what's the highlight of the day for you as a mom? And you get 50,000 different answers. Or if you ask a mom, when was the last time a day flew by when you were with your kids? When was the last time a day flew by? It's not the same day. Right. It's very, very different reactions. Or they're all mothers in this case. No, they're all individuals who happen to have a domain of mothering. Just like they might have a domain of being a salesperson or a domain of being a friend. All of us are wired to gain joy and energy or love from very, very different, very specific things. And so what you're striving for, frankly, is a much healthier relationship to your own loves in your own life. You're striving to think about waking up every single morning and imagining that your world is trying to put on a little show for you. It's trying to show you every day, which in the book I called red threads, that every day your life is many, many threads it's like a fabric of your day. As a worker, as a partner, as a friend, as a mom if you have kids, many different activities, moments, situations, many different threads, some of which are pretty minimal, up, a little down, a little deal with it, a little, hey, push through it. But some of them are these red threads where when you're doing them, time flies by. When you're doing them, you're in your zone. When you're doing them, it's like you're your most you. And it's not like, well, you're organized or you're not. I mean, it's not like a simple category like that. It's in the detail. You may be one of those people who are super into it when you're organizing your spice rack, but I go into your bedroom and it's like the towel fairy threw up all over the room. So it's not as like conscientious or not conscientious, extrovert, introvert. It's not as simplistic as that. It's like what you're striving for is every day, do you know what red threads you might find today in any domain of your life? What are the little moments or situations or contexts or actions or people that for no good reason other than the fact that you're you, they give you a jolt of love, a jolt of energy. That's what the happiest and most successful women do. It's what the happiest, most successful people do. They have a relationship with their own life that allows them to draw energy from these little red threads that life keeps offering them. And it's the energy of those moments that gives them the nutrition that they need to keep moving through the other moments. We talked about this a little bit before as we prep for this presentation or this conversation, juggling. Because the other metaphor isn't just balance, it's juggling.
Right.
And you should juggle. But if you know how to juggle, the skill of juggling isn't catching, it's throwing. And if you learn how to juggle, you're not learning to catch, you're learning to throw. So the metaphor of juggling is keeping everything at bay. That's what you're doing when you're juggling. You're trying to not touch anything for very long at all, and you're trying to throw it away from you. You're trying to keep it away from you. You're trying to keep it back from you as efficiently as you can. What a terrible metaphor for life, to try to keep life at bay as much as you can. The thing that the most, from all of the research that we did as part of the study of the happiest and most successful women, was what we came to call catching and cradling these red threads, holding them so that every day you are super intentional about what red threads will you find today, because frankly, a lot of them won't be red. So the ones that are red, the little moments and situations as a mom, as a friend, you better be able, don't keep them at bay. No, it's like catch them and hold them and feel them and weave them into contribution. Because this isn't about narcissism. It's about, as the book says, it's love and work. Where work isn't just your job. Work is anything of value you're creating for others. But it's like a beautiful infinity flow of your love fuels your contribution, the detail of which informs your love, which fuels your contribution. Like, what a life that is. Now, that's not a perfect life, but that's a life in which you have a really good relationship to your own life.
Well, when we were preparing for this, you talked to me a little bit about catch and cradle, and I had heard the red thread analogy. And so I put it to practice, and I think I told you this earlier this morning. It really works. And some people will say, well, that's just being intentional about capturing the things that made you happy that day or brought you joy. But I think we move through life so quickly and so fast that the things like this moment with you right now is a red thread moment for me. So I just need to sit with it, right? And appreciate that this is part of my job, and it balances the fact that my flight tonight might be delayed 4 hours, and then that's a part of my job too. And I think that's what you're saying is slow down, acknowledge them, and hold on to them.
Yes, you grab on and you see where they lead. I mean, who started this? You started
mPower?
this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's a lesson right there, is that what you have is, you've got a red thread, so the first thing you've got to do is pay attention to it. That's the first thing. What you should be doing, if you've got a 5-year-old, you should start with them. At 5, they can learn this. That you start to pay attention to what you pay attention to. The second thing you look for is patterns. Are there patterns to what you pay attention to? Was it a random, like, whatever? Or are there patterns to what you pay attention to? Beyond that, are there patterns to what you volunteer for? Are there patterns to when time flies by? Are there patterns to when somebody didn't even really have to teach you it, it just clicked? Are there patterns? Once there are patterns like that, then you can start to say to yourself, as you said, every day, can I find some of those? But then one can do what you did, which is going, maybe I could find a day where I'm spending most of my day with that red thread. And then maybe I could learn a skill, refine a competency that takes that red thread and turns it into something where somebody on my team or somebody in my company goes, we need you to do a lot of that, actually.
Right.
And then maybe we get to a situation where right now you've done this, and so now this is a thing. Well, this is a thing because you've paid attention to a pattern. You've then honored that pattern by turning it into something that you could volunteer to do. And then you learned new skills around it. And now people now expect it of you. And it's not all of your life, but it is now an expression of you that, Marcia, is so unique to you. And what it screams to the rest of us is that you've taken your love seriously. Not to be selfish, but to contribute and express. Because the funny thing about love is that it's a force, so it needs to flow. So, and we could have much longer conversations about this, but if you get into a role in any part of your life where your love can't be expressed, then that very thing that will create you when it gets expressed will destroy you if it's repressed. Love kept inside of you, and I don't mean romantic love, I mean love for a specific activity or moment or situation or expression. If you repress it, it destroys you. It burns you up from the inside out. And if you've ever been in a situation where in your personal life or in your friendship life or in your community or in your work, your loves are unexpressed, you'll know how deeply damaging that feels to you. So you are like a, not to blow smoke, but you just a shining example of someone taking a small pattern and then taking it seriously enough to have it be so that you're talking to me today, but you're talking to Rena Moreno, for crying out loud, last time. Yes. And that's just, you created that out of nothing. And we can all take a lesson out of that kind of seriousness with which you've taken yourself.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't mean it for it to be all about me, but the example has worked when you, again, I looked at it as how can we be more intentional about those things that bring us joy in our work. And it's the thread, so to speak, that you said when you interviewed all of these women, these successful women, and they weren't striving for work-life balance. They were catching and cradling, that love, the things that they loved, and it helped balance the things, again, the flight delays or whatever else it would be in your life.
And it's not quite balance. It's more like the thing that we're shortest of in the world isn't time, it's energy. Mm-hmm. And so by you doing this and letting it in and going, I mean, it really does change your brain chemistry. I mean, when you're doing something that you really love to do, it is the same chemical cocktail in your brain as when you're in love with someone. It's the same chemicals. It's serotonin, it's adrenaline, it's oxytocin, it's norepinephrine. It's a physiological, biological thing. And so for us to just keep it at bay and move through life and deal with it and deal with it and deal with it and deal with it, you don't get that cocktail, which means you learn less, which means you collaborate worse, which means you're less generous. So it's not that love balances out the rotten flight. It's that the love gives you the energy to move through. Remember, you're just moving through every moment of your day. And to do it healthily, you've got to pull the nutrients where the nutrients are to be found, so you can move through other moments, which we all have. But that's what the definition of resilience is, really, isn't it? It's having the energy from your own life to enable you to move through sometimes very challenging personal or professional situations.
And am I remembering correctly that you say we really only need to be, to find those red threads 20% in our, let's say, our jobs? It's not like you have to find 80% of the time red threads. You need to find 20%.
Yeah, so the research was this comes from the Mayo Clinic. So research is always provisional, so we're always learning.
Right.
So I reserve the right to come back in about a year's time ago. It's 27%. But they studied doctors and nurses. And they were looking, this was pre-pandemic, they were looking at why do they have such burnout in doctors and nurses, which they do even pre-pandemic. And there's all sorts of ecosystem reasons why there is burnout in doctors and nurses, but one of them is that if you have a job as an emergency room nurse or as a doctor, which if you think about it, has tons of mission and purpose to it, the why of that job, you know, the old thing about start with why. Well, they've got such a big why, and it doesn't help them at all. The why isn't enough. In fact, if you love the why and yet your days, the what, if you like, you could love the why and love the who you're doing it with. But if what you're doing every day, the activities that you're doing every day, don't bring you love, don't bring you joy, don't bring you energy, then you don't last, you do burn up. And their research suggested that 20% was the threshold number. If you are doing 19% or 17% or 12% of activities in your day that you love, you are far more likely to burn out. If you get above 20%, it's almost like that threshold level is a threshold. So if you do 40% of what you love, you're not twice as resilient as if you're doing 20%. Or if you're 80% doing what you love, you're not 4 times more resilient. That doesn't mean it's not good to have 80% of your time doing things that you love. But it appears that a little love at work goes a long way. A little love goes a long way. Get north of 20%. Most of us can get north of 20%. That doesn't mean we should stay in the job that we're in. It might mean that after a while, because we've understood that which we love about what we do, we make a move. Maybe you would decide to change your job as COO into something else, and maybe you take this thing you're doing and turn it into 62.6% of your job. I don't know. Everyone can make their own. It's like, what's a career? Well, a career is a scavenger hunt for love. That's what it is. And so it might suggest that if you're doing 23% of the activities in your day are what you love, you might stay doing that for 10 years. You might choose at some point to move into a different role. All of that is fine. What we know for sure from the Mayo Clinic research is you get below 20%. Gradually, then suddenly, you're gone.
Burnout.
And burnout is it's like bankruptcy, isn't it? It's like gradually, then poof, you're done.
Right.
So their research would suggest that 20% is a really good threshold number to think about.
That's great. Well, this has been fascinating. I could talk to you all day, and I just so appreciate you being part of the mPower community and sharing your research and your wisdom with us today.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.